I would kindly request, without any further delay, I would like to invite Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, sir, for his session.
At the outset, let me first congratulate IIT Entrepreneurial Cell for taking this initiative of promoting the entrepreneurship awareness in the country. I also like to congratulate Vardhaman Engineering College, our principal, Professor Dr. Ravindra, for facilitating this event at Vardhaman Engineering College. Those two things, or several things are there which are big passions of my life. One, of course, is entrepreneurship. As I wind down in my life, the big ambition in my life is to promote, evangelize more amount of entrepreneurship. I'll tell you why in a moment. The second is that I'm very connected with the IIT system. If I have an opportunity to stand in front of all of you today, I think it's the learnings that I got from IIT Kanpur made that difference to my life. An enormous amount of gratitude I have for the teachers, for the institution. And one way of giving back is that I wanted to get connected back to the IIT system. And I did reasonably well. I run 2 IITs as the chairman of the board now. The first one is IIT Hyderabad. I've been the chairman for the last 11 years. And even without some amount of resistance, I wouldn't say too much of resistance, there was some amount of resistance, I still got an extension for 3 more years. So I'll be the longest standing chairman for an IIT by the time I finish my term. That's only a small part of my giving back. I also run IIT Roorkee as the chairman of the board for the last 4 years now. Amazing fact I did, which I, with all modesty and humility, I'll share with you. There are 5 Gen 1 IITs, that's Generation 1 IITs as they're called. These are considered to be the strongest pillars that this country has. Thereafter, of course, we added 18 more. We now have 23 of them. IIT Roorkee got added only in 2000. I took this as a challenge. We displaced one of the 5 IITs from the top and made IIT Roorkee as one of the top 5 engineering institutions in this country. That was done in the last 3 years of my leadership at IIT Roorkee. So I'm in that mood and mode of giving back and take back my corporate life into the education institutions to ensure that we make them as good as the corporate world. We need to talk about entrepreneurship. And let me start with the first thing. Why do I think entrepreneurship is so important? And I also like to share with you, I like this to be interactive. I'll ask questions, but if you have questions for me at any point of time, please raise your hand. I'll be more than happy. We'll have some mics into the audience. And Manasa and Arjun Reddy are there to help you. So let's go back to the first one. Why do I think entrepreneurship is so important? How many of you have heard about a word called demographic dividend? I don't want people in the front 2 rows to lift their hands. I'm sure they're all more knowledgeable than I am. Not necessarily that you are less knowledgeable than I am. So from the audience, anybody putting up their hand up saying that what's demographic dividend? Any hands up? Please do not hesitate. Yes, sir, please. Somebody up there. You should tell me who you are first.
I'm assistant professor,
Yes.
Triple E department.
Okay, go ahead. Still, I'll allow you to speak.
Sir, this demographic dividend means it is the advantage of having huge population like India, China. We are having that advantage. So much manpower is available. That I think.
You got it wrong. Huge population is not demographic dividend. Refine your answer if you like. I'll give you one more chance.
Huge working population.
Thank you. You got it right now. Thank you. So if you have huge working population, which is typically defined anywhere between 16 to 65 years, a nation is supposed to be enjoying what people call it as demographic dividend. India now has 62.5% of India's population is in this particular spectrum of 16 to 65 years. What does it mean in very simple terms? It means there are more number of people who are working compared to the people who are not working. In effect, people who are younger than the 16 years, they're not working. Above 65 years, take a few exceptions like me, they're also not working. So the result is that if you have a large bulge of population which is productive, nations see enormous amount of prosperity. We have seen an upliftment in economic activity in a nation because of demographic dividend. What do we have as examples? We have this first one was Japan. The second was South Korea. Third is China. China still enjoys demographic dividend. So India has that advantage, if you learn from the other countries, that we can also prosper like those three countries I mentioned. But here comes a challenge along with it. What's the challenge? The challenge is, as a result of this demographic dividend, we put 1 million people in the streets of India every month for jobs. So these are not just people, will be produced, they'll graduate, find jobs, they will start become productive, they uplift the economic activity of the nation. They don't. So therefore, there is tremendous amount of demand for jobs right now. I talked about 1 million jobs every month, 10 million jobs approximately per year, or if you look at this window of 10 more years ahead of us, at least 10 more years, we require 100 million jobs. And there is enough of evidence all around the world that net new jobs in any economy are created by new companies, small companies, and medium companies. Existing large companies create only 40% of the jobs. The rest of the jobs get created by the startups and the entrepreneurs. So you can understand the type of pressure that we have as a nation today to create those 100 million jobs or 10 crore jobs in the next 10 years coming from the industry. That's the need that we have in terms of entrepreneurship. So therefore, let's be clear that all of us have to work towards this goal of saying we have to become employment generators and not employment seekers. That's what we need to do. Let me move on. I need to watch my time, yeah. Let me move on. So what is entrepreneurship? Any hands going up? What is entrepreneurship? Who is an entrepreneur? The professor, when hand went up in the past, this time even that doesn't go up. Or he doesn't want to do it. Let's hold on. Who is an entrepreneur? Disappointing. Please, don't disappoint me too far. No one knows what is who is an entrepreneur? Okay. You go and Google now.
Yeah. Myself, Srinivas Reddy. I am AID department. Entrepreneur is nothing but reorganize.
Stand up.
Sorry. I'm sorry, sir. Myself, Srinivas Reddy, CSE AID department. Entrepreneur is nothing but organizing the resources in best way to giving the comfortable to the toward the society, making the comfort and reorganizing the resources.
Companies do that too. So we can't call the companies as entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
So how many of you have smart mobiles with you? Lift your hand up. How many of you have already Googled this word called entrepreneur? Be brave. Boss, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not a tiger here to eat you up. How many of you have Googled it? Nobody. You're not using the internet system well. So if you go and Google it, in the interest of time, let me move on. You'll find entrepreneur is a person who has an idea and he likes to make use of this idea as a business for getting an economic benefit out of it by taking risks. So look at the definition that I just said Google, because that's anyway the Bible. So therefore, but then even otherwise, it will be the same thing. It's a person who has an idea, who wants to take risks for making it a business for getting substantial economic benefit out of it. That's what an entrepreneur is. So therefore, if you look at entrepreneurship, that's Google's definition. But to me, entrepreneurship is much beyond that. Closer to home, I'll take my example. I did a startup 32 years back. 1991, 1992 is when I did my startup. And of course, these 30 years of story that I have, my business story, it's not my personal story. I wrote a book called Dreams to $1 Billion. Life is so that I wrote this book. It took me about 2 years to write. It's already a year old. It's a national bestseller. I saw it also in the lobby. If you guys are interested, go buy a copy of the book and read it yourself. But more interestingly, it also has become the national bestseller. And what's more important than that is that I started as an entrepreneur, and I did take risks. I built a company for the economic benefit. You may be curious, what's the economic benefit, Mr. Reddy, like? I started this company with 20 lakhs of my money. That was $80,000 in US dollar terms. Today, that 20 lakhs or $80,000 is valued in the stock markets. We have two companies now. One is a daughter company or the parent company, and both are listed. So these are not made up numbers of mine. If you go and go to the stock market and see the price, you'll find them. Between both of them, they're valued at 25,000 crores. That's what entrepreneurs can create value. It's not just me. Many other entrepreneurs have done this. So you leave apart that part of the definition. There's a lot more than that. Entrepreneurs participate in nation building. Number one, we created 18,000 jobs, 18,000 high-paying jobs in 18 countries around the world. We talked about it, how important employment generation is for this nation. Creating 18,000 jobs certainly is something which is credible. The second one, many of you may not be familiar, at least a few of them who are sitting in the front rows may be familiar, is in 1991, 1992, this nation was precisely in the same situation as what Sri Lanka is today. What is the situation in Sri Lanka? They are unable to pay for their foreign debt that they owe to other countries. India was exactly in the same situation, brink of a disaster. The Prime Minister was Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, the Finance Minister was Mr. Mohan Singh, and I keep saying sheepishly They were smuggling gold out of India to Bank of London to pay for the debt that we had. They liberalized the economy. They came with new policies. But who executed the policies thereafter? It's the entrepreneur who executed the policy. It's the Infosys, the HCLs, and the Cyient who work together to make sure what is the result of it today. This country has $580 billion of foreign exchange surpluses with us, reserves with us. So entrepreneurs contribute to nation building. A third one is that if you look at innovation, can somebody help me? What is innovation? Any hands up, please? What is innovation? Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you a chance.
So it's basically the ability to create something which is never there by using the present resources that are available.
Very good. Thank you. So create something new with the present, which was not available so far, with the resources that are available with us. And to do that, the nimble-footed small companies are much capable of doing it compared to large companies. So even if we were to say that large companies, we wouldn't call ourselves a large company, we are a mid-sized company at 18,000 people, or a revenue profile which is getting close to $1 billion right now. But the smaller companies, which are the startups, are more nimble-footed, we keep calling them. They're much more agile. Their ability to think about problems and find solutions is much faster. So, what have they done? Even in the West, it's the small companies, the medium companies, which have contributed to innovation big time. So therefore, entrepreneurship is not just limited to just having an economic benefit, but it also is participation in nation building, in making sure that we have better resources. And ultimately what happens is, we've seen two things because of entrepreneurship. The ability, the living conditions improved considerably. A great example is this machine. Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur too. He created this machine for us. Look at the type of conveniences that we have. And the second one is, we also have seen economic upliftment. That is, per capita GDP of an individual change quite dramatically. So we talked about who is an entrepreneur, what does the entrepreneur contribute, and what's the need for entrepreneurship at this point of time. Then the question comes up is, what does it make to become an entrepreneur? Can I tell all of you, please become entrepreneurs, and all of you now pack your bags and go and say, I'm becoming an entrepreneur? No, it doesn't work that way. The first and the foremost is, I always tell people, please ask yourself this question called, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? There's so many human beings out there in this world. So am I like one other person? One other animal? Just live there, eat there, enjoy weather, and disappear thereafter? Or do I live here for something which I want to contribute? So every one of you have to ask this question to yourself, what I want to become. Not necessarily the answer will be, I want to become an entrepreneur. Don't even be disappointed if you don't get that answer. But only when you get an answer saying that I have the mindset to say, I have to become an entrepreneur because I want to create something new. I want to create value. I want to participate in nation building. I want to create jobs. I want to become more innovative. I want to get to recognition. That is when the first question that you have to answer is, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to say, I have the answer of my question to purpose of life. Says, that I have to contribute something substantial to this society. Thereafter comes the other questions that follow through. And before I get to the follow through questions, I also would say, even if you're not an entrepreneur, please develop the mindset of an entrepreneur. What does an entrepreneur do? He runs his business, right? He creates economic value. He creates jobs, all that he does. Can't you do the same working for somebody else? You can do the same by being accountable to what you're doing. If you start saying, I'm responsible for my job, I'm accountable to what I do, and I continue to constantly think about what can be better for this company, these are all the attributes which fall in place to make sure that you have an entrepreneurial mindset. But if you want to truly become an entrepreneur and run your own business, the first and the foremost that you require is passion in life. Passion in life to attain an objective. I had this dream, and I think, I'm sure some of you must have read President Abdul Kalam. He says, and I don't readily recall the complete quote, but what he meant was that you need to dream all the time. But you don't dream while you sleep. You dream when you're far awake. You dream about your ambitions in life. That's the passion that you need to have. We continuously dream. Where am I in my life? I still continue to dream. You don't know what's tomorrow. I don't know what's tomorrow for me. I'm sure I know what tomorrow for you all is. Very promising. May not be true with me, where I'm in my life. But will it stop me from dreaming? It doesn't. That's my birthright. Will I be ambitious? Yes. What will I do thereafter? I probably leave something more substantial back in the society. So therefore, our ability to dream big is one entrepreneurial skill that you require. The second thing that I talk about is that you need to think about, if you want to become an entrepreneur, think about a problem which is real. Don't imagine a problem that exists somewhere and I say, I found a solution. Go back, you'll find so many of them. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I was listening to this gentleman, trying to get his name in a minute, Surya, the last is Singambatla, IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, professor of entrepreneurship. He was saying one of the projects that his class drove last semester was all about how do you buy pet dogs. Don't think it's a simple problem. Who sells pet dogs, first of all? There are kennels. There are ethical kennels, unethical kennels. And therefore, how do you then create a platform for people to go and buy from the ethical kennels? And then you have value-added services that go along with it. There is dog food, there is vaccination, there are dog sitters. Oh my God, he told me 12 different characteristics thereafter. Real problem. People do want in India to buy dogs. They want to buy good dogs, trained dogs. So therefore, you think about a real problem that's there. Real problem today, I'm going to the other extreme end, is to look at what is happening with patients in India. India has today the highest ratio between patient to doctor. For every patient, every doctor, we have 10,000 patients in this country. That's the ratio. So therefore, can I now think about an idea by which this doctor still continues to service 10,000 patients, we can't kill them, but can he efficiently do that? Can I find this? That's a real problem, right? We have online education that came into existence. That's the real problem. We wanted more content, content which is of high quality, available online for people, for people to learn from any time, anywhere. And that's how online education came into existence. So think about a real problem and think about a unique solution that goes along with it. It cannot be that if somebody else can copy. A number of people come even today to some of the startup sessions that occasionally I sit on. And they'll tell you that, look, I want to create one more Zomato food delivery system. You ask this question, how do you do this? Sir, I'll use faster vehicles, deliver faster. Your competition can buy a faster vehicle than you, and what happens to you thereafter? I pay better. Your margins erode. You'll disappear very quickly. So if you are trying to think about a solution, think about a solution which has not been heard so far. It has to be unique. I'm sure a number of people are electrical engineers. An idea that somebody is trying out right now is that you actually can see the signature of the current flowing in the wire using an IoT device to find out which is the device which is consuming that power. The waveform gives you a clear picture of who is consuming, and you can then measure how much is being consumed. And then you can thereafter decipher, so where is the leak that's happening? Which is the most inefficient part of your plant, for instance? Or even your home. Does refrigerator consume more? Or does the geyser consume more? Or it's air conditioner which is consuming more? Or each one of them have a different signature as far as the current is concerned. So if you can get a unique solution of that nature, you'll stand your stead for a long time. So then comes the next thing is, no company is done by one individual, right? You have to work in teams. So your ability to attract talent and make sure this talent sticks on to you and work together, collaborate. We live in a world which is collaboration at this point of time. We live in a world of collaboration. You collaborate to ensure that your solution and the team provide something which is very unique, which will stand the stead of time and becomes very, very attractive for people to create, people to buy. The other thing is that if you have a problem that you're looking at, you should also look at what is the addressable market that I have. How many people will buy it? If only people in my street will buy it, that's a very small market. That's a TAM, as it's called, total addressable market. I looked at this proposition 30 years back of saying, what is my idea for a startup? My idea for a startup is we provide technology as a service for the Western world. We had skills in India. We certainly had cost arbitrage. Literally, in the cost of a skill, total cost, if you look at loaded cost, it's about 1/5 is the cost that you have for a good technology professional in India compared to the Western world. We said we'll use the cost arbitrage. And we have plenty of people. But then we also had to look at, is this a big marketplace? The answer was yes. We said, how big is it? It's $1 trillion marketplace. People spend $1 trillion in R&D across the world on products every year. That's the market we wanted to address. Is it a stagnant market? No. It grows at about 4.5% every year. It's almost now, since we started, we're now getting to close to about $1.8 trillion of a TAM, which is a total addressable market. So therefore, when you look at a problem that you have, you should look at how much can I address? How big can this be? You might start off small. You can actually, when you look at your solution, you might not even find your solution in one iteration. You try, find what the solution is, you find it, then you test it out, you find it has to definitely go through one more and one more and one more. So therefore, you need to have several things in place. Don't think Entrepreneurship is just like taking the bag and going out and telling people that I'm becoming an entrepreneur. Several parents come to me and ask this question, sir, like you, my son also wants to become an entrepreneur. So I said, very good. I would welcome him to become to this world of entrepreneurship. And I keep saying, so what does he want to do? No, sir, he wants the idea from you. And I'm telling you, that's a sure shot way of failing as an entrepreneur. If you don't have your own idea, it has to come from you. It has to come from within you. And there are several other attributes that we can talk about. You need to be well funded. Don't try to become an entrepreneur without enough of money with you. Money by which you should raise, whether it's to start with in pre-seed stage, family and friends to go by. Thereafter, you can go to venture capitals or private equity and so on and so forth. So therefore, entrepreneurship is first and the foremost is you need to have passion in yourself. And thereafter, a number of attributes that come in, including, of course, I think I could have missed mentioning a couple of very important ones, is that you have to have the ability to take risks. I met with your chairman and your principal before I came here, and they were asking what's the conversion rate of entrepreneurs in this country. And I was saying it is still not very high. We think the number is somewhere between 2 to 3% from the graduating engineering classes. Because we graduate somewhere in the range of about 110,000 engineers every year across the country. So one of the things I was saying was that what is stopping people becoming entrepreneurs is also the risk-taking ability. And you should take risks for sure. Because only when you start taking the risk, you learn. Failure does not mean you failed in life. You failed in a project. There's a fairly large amount of learning that comes out of it. In my company, we keep saying, we celebrate failures. We celebrate learnings from failures. And the other thing which is important is, if you truly want to be an entrepreneur, you need to have the leadership capabilities. Because there's nobody else to go and ask, saying that, what do I do in this situation? They might give you advice, but they won't take a decision for you. Or the other one is persistence, because the moment you come back with a failure, it cannot be that you say, this is all it, I'm packing my bags and going away from here. Persist with the idea. Several times in my life, last 30 years especially, I've been in the professional area for 50 years now, getting close to 50 years. I graduated out of IIT Kharagpur in 1973. So it's just about 50. And then, of course, I went back to school again to Michigan. But there is nobody behind you in terms of trying to take a decision for you. You're the final decision maker. They can give you advice, all right. But you can't be saying that somebody will give me advice, no. So you need to have that leadership quality of saying, I'm a good decision maker. I can lead people with integrity. And I have the skill in making sure people collaborate and cooperate. So think about entrepreneurship. Think about it as not something which is very difficult, but think about it as something which you need to be prepared before you jump into it. Certainly, what do I see as the ecosystem now? I'm going to stop in another 5 minutes, and then I'll open the floor for all of you. Yep, I should stop, right. What do I see as the ecosystem is far, far different from what people like me saw, or people like me even ahead of me saw. Actually, I had this ambition of becoming an entrepreneur much earlier than when I started. I actually was a professional. I worked for somebody for 18 years. Literally 8 years I was a line manager, but thereafter I became a CEO of a company at a very young age. For 10 years I ran the company, which was a computer system integration company, before I decided I'll be on my own. But what we are seeing at this point of time is that the ease of doing business has changed quite dramatically. If you go and read my book, I talk all about how the license Raj used to be in the good old days. And there's some hilarious stories I talk about. But today it's much better. Ease of doing business has dramatically improved in this country. We certainly have seen infrastructure improving also quite a bit. In summer months, even in a city like Hyderabad 10 years back, my whole offices, we have several facilities in Hyderabad. All around Hyderabad facilities, there used to be diesel generator sets. Why? Because there was no power. And so we had to run diesel gen sets all around us. Because air conditioning is required for people, air conditioning, because that's how the whole architecture was done. We require machines to be cooled, and you require servers to be at very, very climate-friendly environment. But whereas today, even the peak summer months, I'm not using even 1 watt of power from gensets. It's only occasionally there's an accidental failure that happens once in a while. That's when we use the power. So you also have, and then you look at money. At that point of time, there used to be just 2 funding agencies in India. One was called IDBI Venture Capital Fund, VCF, and the other one was called ICICI TDF, Technology Development Fund. Whereas I assure you, they're dime a dozen at this point of time in terms of providing you funds, so long as you have an idea which can be tested for time, a solution which is going to be addressing a large market, a solution which has got a large unique distinction by itself. But I think lastly, let me conclude by saying, I think the timing is absolutely perfect for you to become an entrepreneur. And the reason is, I talked about the environment, but equally important is you're all technology graduates. We haven't seen technology at the pace at which it is today anywhere in my lifetime. I can now make the disclosure, I'm 73 years old. I've been in technology for the last 50 years. I ran companies for the last 40 years. As CEO, I never have seen technology acceleration at what it is today. And there doesn't seem to be any slowing down. Gordon Moore in 1974 wrote what is called as Moore's Law. Can my young friends help me? What's Moore's Law? Electrical engineering, computer science, computer engineering, computer information systems. What did Gordon Moore say in 1974? Dr. Ravindra, I am disappointed. What Gordon Moore said in 74 was for every 18 months, the amount of wafer, the silicon that can be packed, will double itself, which means the computing power will become twice. It will become half in size and half in cost. 2 times the power, half the size, and half the cost. In 2003, 30 years later, people went ahead to say whether Gordon Moore was right or wrong. And they found Gordon Moore was wrong. Why? It doesn't take 18 months any longer. It takes less than 18 months for computers to become twice as powerful as they were. They're becoming cheaper. They're becoming smaller. So therefore, what we think is now, even if you look at future, we said 2023, now we are in 2003, now 2023. Even now, it's the same thing. Quantum computing coming in, we'll see a quantum leap in terms of power of technology. How many of you use ChatGPT? Very good. Are you doing your homework using ChatGPT? Yes, be brave if you want to put up your hand. Yes. How much of your homework is done by ChatGPT? 100%. No. That's copying. That's copying now. Take the help of ChatGPT. 60% good answer. So therefore, I think if you look at ChatGPT, you pose a question. I'm sure several hands went up. Even the most complicated question you can pose, how many seconds does it take to come out? Very few seconds, right? At times I blink my eyes and then the answer is already there. What does it mean? You people have to think about how much of our computing power that's there at the back end. Not just the computing power. The second one is the communication capability that goes on. The ability to communicate is something which has also become a thing that is integral part of our lives. How many people have used a landline? How many of you? Wow, that's impressive. The other day I showed my granddaughter a landline machine and she said, how do I use it? It had that rotary ring and she didn't even know how to do that. I belong to a generation where I'm glad some people lifted their hand, but I belong to a generation I waited for 7 years to get a phone. And today we saw most of you putting up your hands when I said, do you have a mobile phone or a smartphone with you? But tell me one thing, how many of you have 2 phones with you? Put your hands up, 1, 2, 3. Number of hands have come down in the recent past. Why is it? Because the dual SIM phones have come in. Look at the luxury you have. And to give you a flavor, because of connectivity, the ability to communicate has increased so much. There's 7 billion people in the world. 5 billion people now have a mobile phone or a smartphone. About 80% have smartphones out of the total phones that are there. But very important is the fact now machines are communicating with machines. And they're all on the same network as you do. So what is happening is that 20 billion things and people communicate at this point of time. And the power of that network it's called power of 2. That is, if you and I communicate with each other, it's 2 people, 2 to the power of 2. The power of our network is just 4. Now think about a 20 billion square. That's the power of the network the world has with it. Equally important is the speed of communication. I'm sure you people have heard about 5G technologies. But what we are working in IIT Hyderabad right now is 6G technologies. With 5G itself, we today have latency less than 1 millisecond that I can do online surgeries. It's not online consulting. I go back to that question I raised earlier, where a doctor is servicing 10,000 patients. If you give them an ability to now do surgeries online, it will be much faster. Somebody else is prepping them before the specialist comes to do the surgery. So communication is improving. We're also seeing these ugly looking devices called sensors. They become dime a dozen. And they can sense many things better than human beings, especially on vision. They can do vision, they can have the feel, they can hear, they can smell, they can taste, like human beings do. And doing better in certain, especially in case of vision. They can see X-rays much better than a common eye of a doctor. So therefore, and then we also have on top of that, we just mentioned about ChatGPT, there is AI coming, AR, VR, just not computing technologies. You look at manufacturing technologies, 3D printing, sustainability, EVs, genomics, biotechnology. So therefore, technology provides you many more opportunities too for you to think about becoming an entrepreneur. On that count, let me say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity one more time. And let me conclude by saying I am past. What I see in front of my eyes is my future. And the fact that I see so many shining eyes and smiling faces makes me believe that my future and your future is in safe hands. God bless you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.